Just paint a startling picture of the number of children and also teens who are living on our streets all across the state. An analysis conducted by our news partner, the Seattle Times, based on figures from the state superintendent's office, shows nearly 40,000 students in Washington were homeless during the last school year. 40,000. That is up, by the way, 12% from the previous year. In 21 school districts, the number of homeless students doubled over a two-year span. Joining us now to talk about what can be done about this obviously disturbing trend is Dr. Melinda Giovengo, CEO of Youthcare. It's a local group devoted to getting kids as young as 12 years old off the streets and prepared for life. Thank you.
Thank you so much for covering this story.
And I appreciate the work that you all are doing, and it sounds like we have an uphill battle. Are you surprised by this increase of 12%, 40,000 kids homeless in our schools?
Well, yes and no. I think that there's a couple of things at play here. One is that we are getting better at identifying these young people, which is the good news. That once we know where they are, we're able to then reach out and help them and their families become stable so that they can participate fully in school. The other side is that sometimes an economic boom leaves people behind. And for those of us that have been working in the homeless field for a long time, we know that every $100 of rent increases the homeless population by 10%. So what we're seeing is that one person's success can also really lead to some awful circumstances for other people in our community.
So that may be one reason. What are some of the other reasons that these families and these kids end up homeless?
Well, a lot of times they may have been doubled up with families trying to stay connected while they have lost their home. You know, we're really just still seeing the back end of the economic downturn from the late 2000s. And homelessness is one of those very trailing variables that responds last. So we're still seeing families who have not recovered from the economic crisis that we had that are still falling in deeper and deeper into homelessness, going from perhaps doubling up with families, ending up on the streets, ending up in shelters where they may have been hidden before.
How much more difficult is it for a homeless child to learn in school, given all of the things that they have to deal with already?
Well, the brain can only do a couple of things at one time, and when you're trying to survive, that's going to take priority in terms of your brain functioning. We know that about young people in any kind of circumstance. But if you don't know where you're going to sleep or where your next meal is coming from, if you don't know where your mom and dad are going to be or if they're around at all, that's going to absolutely bar your ability to participate in school. And every day they miss school or are not functioning in school is one day less that they are putting into their future. And that's what we're really worried about, is that they fall behind in some of the very, very basic educational steps, and then it's hard to catch up over time when you're moving from school to school, you know, from shelter to shelter, trying to find and keep up with your academics.
How can staff and administrators identify these kids and also overcome the stigma of homelessness?
Right. I think that there's a lot of things that teachers can do. One, you can just begin to notice, are young people, is their hygiene changed, right? Is their homework crumpled? Do they look like they're coming in disheveled? Are they daydreaming? Are they sleepy? Because many times our young people will be up all night, either because they're in a new environment trying to sleep, or they've been out on the streets and have no place to sleep, and so they come to school really and actually fall asleep. So I think paying attention to the subtle behavior changes in young people, you can really see a change in their home life and their situations.
What is the biggest misconception about homeless youth in our communities?
The biggest misconception that I've dealt with over my almost 40-year career is that they want to be out there. In my experience, I've never met a child that wakes up and says, oh, today I'd like to be homeless and sleep on the streets. There's often so many precipitating variables that have led them to make that choice. Some of it's from coming out as LGBTQ, and their families are not equipped to deal with their coming out. Some young people are living with mental health and substance abuse in their homes. Abject poverty, where there's just not enough room in the inn, to be honest with you, for them. Large families. And I think that the other big misconception is that that's where they want to stay. The biggest question we get at Youthcare is, can you help me get a job? And so one of the things we really focus on is helping young people re-engage with education and employment while we're trying to get them stably housed.
All right. And so what is Youthcare doing to help them take that next step and overcome those challenges?
Well, we have an entire continuum of services. We have a very, very highly professional outreach team that is out there in all of these encampments trying to locate young people and getting them into care. Once they come in for services, we work with a clinically trained and professional trained case managers to get them connected to housing, get them into a shelter when and if there's space, and we're often overbooked, as you can imagine, but get them into immediate housing, and then begin the steps immediately to get them back in school and looking for employability and jobs. So we do a lot of job training, a lot of working with the schools. We actually work inside of schools doing the Interagency Academy, doing homeless prevention with both youth and families. And we have a wide toolkit, everything from never letting a child spend the night on the street through diversion and or getting them into rapid rehousing if they've been housed before. But our objective is never having anyone spend the night on the street. And then we can put together the building blocks to help them move forward.
All right, important start, and thank you for the work that you're doing.
Well, thank you for having me.
We'll stay in touch with you as this issue that affects us all needs addressed.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Dr.
being here.
Giovengo. Matt, back to you.